Greetings, family. Dr. David Roots here again. I wanted to put together a video. I was thinking about some of the comments that get mentioned to me, specifically about university. And I wanted to put together a video about my mindset now when it comes to university and how I'm thinking, because I don't want any confusion out there as to whether people think that I think university is a bad thing or a good thing. So let me just make it clear. Any sort of education is a good thing, okay? In fact, part of my wealth building cycle that I talk about the foundation is education. So any sort of education is a good thing, ultimately, okay? But when we speak about university education, and the same kind of goes for secondary school, but we're going to talk about university education, there's a few things that have to be considered. In fact, the title of this video is how a university education actually prepares you for being broke. Okay? You can retitle that and relabel it in many different ways, but basically, going through a university education actually transforms your mindset, not to a mindset of prosperity, abundance, and building wealth, but really to the exact opposite. I'm going to talk about why. I don't want it to be long, and I wrote a few notes down, so you might see me look down at my paper, okay, for my notes that I have put down. So the first point I wanted to make was that, obviously, as we all know, with a university education, for most people, we're talking about 99.9% of people, to get educated in a university environment requires huge amounts of capital, which then creates huge amounts of debt for most people. In fact, many families go into debt, and many students come out of university already in debt just to get this university education. And when you look at, for example, my own experience, when I look at some of the people who may not have been as academically able as me at the time when I went to university, and so they didn't go to university. Many of those people, when I came out of university 4 years later, I went to an American university first, they actually were ahead of me financially. And the more university education that I achieved, I did a bachelor's degree, I did a master's degree, and did a PhD. Every time I went to university, I actually went further back financially. And other people who maybe didn't go to university or only went and done a first degree went further ahead financially and economically, and a much more financial stable position than I was when I came out. Okay? So that's the first big part of it, that the university setting actually sets you up for being in debt. So that's the first part. The second part is the university education that you will receive is all about rote knowledge, majority. Okay? The majority of the education you receive from university is about obtaining facts. Okay? Now, some degrees are better than others. And so skills-based degrees are inherently better than just degrees where you're going to go and learn some knowledge, you're going to learn some facts. If you get a skills-based degree, for example, my daughter's doing physiotherapy, that's a skills-based degree. If you're going to do engineering, that's a skills-based degree. If you're going to do medical doctorate, that's a skills-based degree, etc., etc. Those degrees are better. But many of the degrees are basically all about just transfer of knowledge from your professor to you. Okay? And the problem with that is it doesn't necessarily teach you about application. Okay? And if you don't understand application, then you cannot make those skills and knowledge that you've learned useful for anyone. And if you cannot make it useful for anyone, then inherently there's no wealth in what you've learned. You've just become a fact machine. I can take myself for a perfect example. I was very passionate about the marine and environmental sciences before I went to university. It's always been something I've been into. And I went and studied this at university, marine and environmental science. And I was very good at it. In fact, I graduated with honors from my university with that degree. But during that whole time, that whole 4 years of education, I did not learn once of how I could apply that knowledge and actually make it useful, make it utilitarian for other people. And since I didn't have that, of course, what's the result? You have to then go out and work for someone else to try to utilize the skills and the knowledge that you have, which then inherently sets you up for, obviously, not for wealth building, but to actually lose money, because you're basically becoming all you have to do now is become an employee, because you have to go and work for someone else. Okay, so there's 2 facts so far of why a university education actually is going to work against you in terms of wealth building. Okay, and number 3, which is the most important part, and this is a shift that I had to make, and this is why I'm saying it's not about whether or not someone goes to university. It's what tools that they have while they're in university, and when they come out of university, that's going to make that university degree powerful. So the last thing is the mindset. The mindset. Going to a university doesn't empower you with a mindset of a producer, of a builder, of a creator. The top programs are so valuable, like the MITs and the Harvards and so on and so on, because their programs of education actually promote the creator mindset, the producer mindset. And that's why those schools are so valued. Okay? But the majority of university educational programs, they don't want to empower you with that mindset. You know why? Because in front of you, you're going to have professors and teachers who don't have that mindset themselves. Many of these teachers were academics that went straight from university, from a secondary school to university, straight into teaching and working. They haven't done anything else. They haven't produced anything else, including in the business schools also. So it's the mindset from which you leave university that's the most powerful piece of whether or not that university education is going to be something that drives you to build wealth, to be a producer, to be a creator, or something which just sets you up to be a part of that 9-to-5 rat race employer-employee cycle. I'm not against university. However, I understand that there needs to be a shift in what we are sending our children to do when they go to university. 1, we need to make them understand that to leave behind the debt idea of putting so much faith into this university education but coming out with only debt, especially if you don't have a proper skills-based degree that's actually useful. Okay? 2, we need them to understand that knowledge is not application. Okay? Having knowledge is one thing, but knowing how to apply it and knowing how to apply the skills in a useful way, a producing way, a creative way, is what's actually going to make that university education beneficial to you and to your society in the long run. And 3, the most important piece, which is the mindset piece. The mindset. It's our responsibility to change the thinking of our young people. I'm going about this in terms of showing them the importance of building wealth, being putting prosperity in their life, and putting abundance in their life. And that all has to do with mindset and thinking. Okay? So that's just a quick short video about how a university education, thousands and thousands of dollars or pounds or whatever you want to spend on it, can actually move you closer towards being broke rather than actually empowering you and facilitating you towards building wealth. I'm Dr. David Roots. I hope you enjoyed the beautiful scenery behind me. Give thanks.